What would you do if your entire world turned upside down in a single moment? For Maya, a dedicated and hardworking black woman, life had always followed a predictable rhythm. Each morning, she would rise early, brew her favorite coffee, and prepare for another day at the bustling marketing agency where she had built a reputation as a rising star. Her coworkers admired her determination, but Maya never sought validation. She thrived on the challenges each day presented. However, as she stepped out of her office building that late afternoon, she had no idea that everything was about to change. The city was alive with the sounds of traffic and the chatter of pedestrians as she walked down the busy sidewalk, her mind already racing with thoughts of deadlines and meetings. But then, her gaze fell upon a figure leaning casually against a sleek black car parked just a few feet away. He wore a perfectly tailored suit that clung to his broad shoulders, and his dark hair was slicked back, exuding an aura of danger and power. Curiosity bubbled within her as she found herself drawn to him, unable to look away from the enigmatic man whose presence seemed to command the attention of everyone around him. As she passed by, the mysterious figure caught her eye, and for a brief moment, their gazes locked. Maya felt a strange sensation ripple through her, a mixture of intrigue and caution. Who was he? She quickly dismissed the thought, reminding herself of the many responsibilities waiting for her at home. But as she continued to walk away, she couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was anything but ordinary. Just as she turned the corner, she heard the unmistakable sound of chaos erupting from behind her. The screech of tires, the shattering of glass, and then, the sharp crack of a gunshot shattered the peaceful evening atmosphere. Adrenaline surged through her veins as she instinctively ducked behind a nearby car, her heart racing as she tried to comprehend what was happening. She peeked out from her hiding place, her breath caught in her throat as she caught sight of the man in the suit, now engaged in a tense confrontation with several men who approached with a menacing edge. Panic began to set in. Maya's mind raced as she realized the danger that surrounded her. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her chest, suffocating her. Just as she was about to run, she felt a strong grip on her arm. "Come with me," the man from the car whispered urgently, his eyes scanning the area for threats. It was the same man she had seen moments before. There was something in his gaze that compelled her to trust him, an instinct that urged her to follow. He led her through a winding alleyway, away from the chaos, until they reached a nondescript door hidden behind a dumpster. With quick precision, he opened the door and ushered her inside, locking it behind them. The room was dimly lit and furnished with sleek, modern decor that belied the danger outside. "You'll be safe here," he assured her, his voice low and steady, but she couldn't shake the uncertainty that gnawed at her. As she took a moment to catch her breath, Maya studied the man closely. His features were striking, his jawline sharp, but there was a darkness lurking in his eyes that told her he was not just an ordinary man. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice a mixture of strength and trepidation. "June," he replied simply, and as he spoke, she began to piece together the gravity of the situation. This man was not just a bystander, he was a powerful figure in the underworld, a mafia boss, and she had unwittingly stumbled into his world. "What do you want with me?" Maya's voice quivered slightly, fueled by both fear and fierce determination. She could feel her heart pounding, not only from the adrenaline of the earlier chaos but from the realization of how dangerously close she had come to a situation far beyond her comprehension. June stepped closer, an intensity in his gaze that sent shivers down her spine. "Right now, I want to keep you safe. You witnessed something you shouldn't have. I can't let anything happen to you." Maya's mind reeled. A part of her was terrified, while another part was inexplicably drawn to him, intrigued by the dangerous allure he exuded. "Why should I trust you?" she challenged, crossing her arms defiantly. "Because I'm your only option," he replied, his voice firm yet devoid of malice. "They will come looking for you, and I won't let them find you." Just then, a sound echoed from outside, and Maya's heart leapt into her throat. She had no idea what lay ahead, but one thing was clear, she was entangled in a web of danger, and the man before her was her only lifeline. Secrets lurked in the shadows, and she felt a flicker of a connection with June, a bond that began to form under the weight of their shared danger. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss the next thrilling chapter. As Maya and June stood together in that safe room, a storm was brewing outside, but within their fragile sanctuary, the first threads of an unexpected alliance began to weave between them. Little did they know how their fates were now inextricably linked, leading them down a path neither could foresee. Maya felt her heart racing as she crouched behind the car, the echo of gunfire still ringing in her ears. The scene before her was chaotic, men shouting and throwing punches, the sound of metal crashing against metal. She had only wanted a quiet evening after work, but now she was thrust into a nightmare, a specter of violence unfolding in front of her. Her breath quickened, and she instinctively pressed herself further into the shadows, praying that she wouldn't be seen. The man in the suit, June, was at the center of it all, a commanding presence amidst the chaos. She watched as he moved with an air of confidence, almost as if he were choreographed in this dangerous dance. His every action was deliberate, calculated, and it struck her that he was far more than just a bystander. There was an intensity in his stance, an awareness of the world around him that sent a chill down her spine. Just as she thought to flee, a strong hand clamped around her wrist. "Come with me," June whispered urgently, his voice low and commanding, yet laced with an undeniable sense of urgency. Maya's instinct kicked in, she felt the pull of something deep within her, urging her to trust him despite the overwhelming chaos. Without a moment's hesitation, she allowed him to lead her into the darkness, a hidden door just a few steps away. The door swung open to reveal a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Inside the safe room, the atmosphere shifted entirely. It was quiet, almost too quiet, yet the suffocating tension remained. The decor was modern and minimalist, with sleek furnishings and dim lighting that created an intimate but uneasy space. "You'll be safe here," June assured her, his voice steady despite the danger lurking just outside. But Maya's heart was pounding, not from fear alone, but from the rush of adrenaline. She was safe, but at what cost? Who was this man? And why was he involved in such violent encounters? "What do you want with me?" she asked, her voice shaky but defiant. She felt like she was stepping into someone else's story, a tale woven with danger and intrigue, and she was reluctant to be just a pawn in it. "Right now, I want to protect you," June replied, his expression serious, his eyes reflecting a mix of determination and vulnerability. "You saw something you weren't supposed to see. I can't let anything happen to you." Maya searched his gaze, trying to decipher whether he was telling the truth, or if this was all part of an elaborate deception. "And why should I trust you?" she challenged, crossing her arms defiantly as she fought against the attraction that was beginning to simmer within her. "Because I'm your only option," he said, his voice low and firm. "They will come looking for you. They don't take kindly to witnesses, especially in this world." He paused, his tone softening slightly. "I don't want that for you." Maya hesitated, the weight of his words sinking in. She had been an ordinary woman, living an ordinary life, until now. The reality of her situation was dawning on her, the danger palpable in the air between them. The spark of intrigue ignited somewhere deep within her, battling against the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. A sudden noise from outside drew both their attentions, the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. June moved immediately, positioning himself in front of her protectively. "Stay close," he instructed, his gaze fixed on the door, muscles tensed, ready for whatever might come next. Maya's heart raced as she held her breath. The moment felt electric, a mix of fear and the undeniable chemistry that crackled between them. She had no idea what to expect, but something about being so close to him sent a thrill coursing through her veins. The world outside might be chaotic, but in this moment, it felt as if they were in their own bubble, suspended in time. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "Why go to such lengths to protect someone like me?" June turned slightly, his expression softening for just a second as he glanced back at her. "Because I see you," he said simply, and in that moment, Maya's breath hitched. There was a sincerity in his eyes that spoke volumes, a connection that was deeper than the peril surrounding them. If you're enjoying this story, go ahead and click that subscribe button. You won't want to miss how this tension unfolds between Maya and June. The footsteps grew louder, and June's attention snapped back to the door. "Listen to me," he said, his voice low but urgent. "Whatever happens, don't make a sound. I'll handle this." The intensity in his eyes was fierce, and Maya felt a mix of fear and admiration. She nodded, her heart pounding as she positioned herself behind him, ready to follow his lead. The weight of the situation pressed down on her, but something within her began to shift. She was no longer just a bystander in her own life, she was a part of a story that was unfolding in real time, one that was fraught with danger yet oddly exhilarating. As the door creaked open, June stood tall, an imposing figure even in the face of uncertainty. Maya watched as he prepared to confront the threat outside. This was a man who lived in a world of shadows, yet he had chosen to step into the light for her. The magnetism between them intensified, an undercurrent of chemistry that neither could ignore. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: Maya had entered a world she had never imagined, and June was a key player in it. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her decision settle in. Whatever happened next, she was ready to face it. Maya's breath came in quick, shallow bursts as she tried to process everything that was happening. The adrenaline coursed through her veins, and the reality of her situation began to settle in. She was alone, trapped in a room with a man who was both terrifying and intriguing. June's presence was magnetic, and despite her fear, she found herself drawn to him, curious about the deeper layers of his character. As the footsteps echoed closer, she felt a surge of vulnerability. What if he was just as dangerous as the men she had seen him with earlier? Her instinct screamed at her to be cautious, yet there was an undeniable connection sparking between them. June's eyes bore into hers, and in that moment, she felt a mix of fear and something more, a strange, captivating chemistry that tugged at her. "What do you really want?" she asked again, her voice steadier now but still laced with suspicion. The shadows of doubt lingered in her mind, but she couldn't shake off the curiosity that burned within her. "You seem to be the kind of man who gets what he wants. So what is it?" He held her gaze, and for a moment, it felt like the world around them faded away. "I want to keep you safe," he replied, his voice firm yet soft, a strange juxtaposition that both confused and intrigued her. "You don't understand the danger you're in. I've seen what happens to people who know too much. I can't let that happen to you." Maya wanted to believe him, she really did. But the skepticism was hard to shake. The last thing she wanted was to become a pawn in someone else's ruthless game. She crossed her arms, forcing herself to maintain her composure. "And what makes you think I would trust you? You're a part of that world out there." She gestured toward the door, where the danger still loomed. "How do I know this isn't just a ploy?" His expression shifted slightly, revealing a flicker of vulnerability in the depths of his eyes. "Because I'm not just any mafia boss," he said, his tone dropping to a level of intimacy that made her heart race. "I didn't choose this life, it chose me. I do what I must to protect those I care about." There was a thickness in the air as she considered his words. She was standing on the precipice of something dangerously alluring, and the tension crackling between them grew palpable. Maya couldn't help but wonder about his life, the choices that had led him to this moment. "Do you care about me?" she asked, the question slipping out before she could stop herself. June's gaze didn't waver, and for a brief moment, she thought she saw a glimmer of something genuine behind the cold exterior, a hint of warmth that suggested he might be more than just a powerful figure lurking in the shadows. "I care about your safety. That's all that matters right now," he said, but there was a lingering implication in his words that made her pulse quicken. He was far more complex than the archetype he presented. Before she could respond, the footsteps outside halted, and Maya's heart nearly stopped. They were so close, she could hear the muffled voices exchanging hurried whispers. June's body tensed as he positioned himself between her and the door, his muscles coiling like a predator ready to pounce. There was something hypnotic about the way he radiated strength and confidence, and she found herself leaning into that energy. "Stay quiet," he instructed, his voice barely above a whisper. "No matter what happens, don't make a sound." Maya nodded, the gravity of the moment settling heavily on her shoulders. She felt both terrified and exhilarated, knowing that she was in a world far beyond her understanding. The question of who June really was gnawed at her, and she wondered how much of his story remained untold. At that moment, June turned slightly, revealing a hint of vulnerability in his gaze. "You have no idea how much I wish I could explain everything," he said, his voice softening. "But for now, I need you to trust me, just a little." Trust. It was a fragile thing, especially in a situation that felt like a ticking time bomb. Yet, as she stared into his intense eyes, Maya felt a strange sense of understanding. She was caught in a web of intrigue, and whether she wanted to admit it or not, she was captivated by the man who stood before her. The chemistry between them was undeniable, a magnetic pull that drew her closer even as her mind warned her to stay guarded. If you're already hooked on their chemistry, hit that like button. And tell me, would you trust him? The moment hung in the air, charged with tension as they waited to see what would unfold next. Jun's focus was unwavering, his body taut as he braced himself for whatever threat lay beyond the door. Maya felt an unexpected thrill at being so close to him, and despite her fears, she was curious about this dangerous man who was so determined to protect her. As the door creaked open, Jun's stance shifted, becoming even more protective. It was a silent promise that he would do whatever it took to defend her, and in that moment, Maya understood the gravity of the bond that was forming between them. This was no ordinary encounter. This was the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything she thought she knew. What lay ahead was uncertain, but Maya felt a stirring hope within her. She took a deep breath, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. There was no going back now. She was stepping into a world that was dangerous, thrilling, and filled with undeniable chemistry. With Jun by her side, she was prepared to discover the truth behind his enigmatic persona and the depths of her own courage. As Maya stood there, her heart pounding in her chest, she could feel the tension rising like a thick fog around them. The footsteps outside were no longer just muffled echoes, they were a menacing threat drawing closer. Jun's presence loomed over her like a protective shield, every muscle in his body coiled and ready for action. The atmosphere was electric, filled with a mix of fear and adrenaline that made her pulse race. "What's happening?" Maya whispered, her voice trembling slightly, uncertainty flooding her mind. She was fully aware that she had stumbled into a world that was dangerous and foreign, one that demanded her to confront her deepest fears. Jun's gaze sharpened, his eyes scanning the door with the intensity of a hawk, and for the first time, she noticed the depth of concern etched on his face. "Stay back," he instructed tersely, his body tilting slightly toward her as if to block any potential harm. The authority in his voice sent chills down her spine, but it also ignited a flicker of courage within her. She had spent her life being cautious, never daring to step outside her comfort zone, and yet here she was, caught in a whirlwind of chaos with a man who was both terrifying and mesmerizing. As the door creaked open, Jun's demeanor shifted. He was no longer just a powerful mob boss, he was a guardian, fiercely determined to protect her at all costs. Maya's breath hitched as she watched him transform, revealing a vulnerability beneath his composed exterior. This was a side of him she hadn't expected to see, and it only deepened her intrigue. There was an undeniable tension in the air, a heavy charge that made her acutely aware of every heartbeat, every breath. The moment they had shared in the safe room felt like a lifetime ago, and she began to process how drastically her views of him had changed. This was not just a man of power, this was a man who cared, who was willing to risk everything for her safety. It was a revelation that shook her core. In that fleeting moment, she found herself grappling with the conflicting emotions swirling inside her, fear, attraction, and an inexplicable connection that drew her closer to him. Footsteps echoed just outside the door, sending shivers of anxiety through her. "Don't move," Jun spoke softly but firmly, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that sent warmth flooding through her. There was something about the way he looked at her, something that whispered promises of protection and understanding that she had never known before. As the door burst open, Maya's heart stopped. A figure stepped inside, cloaked in shadows, and she felt Jun tense beside her, ready to spring into action. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation as they both held their breath, waiting for the confrontation that felt inevitable. Jun's demeanor changed again, he was a force of nature, moving with unyielding confidence. He stepped forward, his body positioned in front of her, blocking her from view. "Who sent you?" Jun demanded, his voice low and dangerous, a stark contrast to the calm demeanor he had displayed moments ago. Maya felt a rush of adrenaline, the realization that his world was far more perilous than she had ever imagined. The figure before them hesitated, the tension between them palpable, and she could sense the power dynamic shifting. Maya's mind raced, processing the gravity of the situation. She was drawn into the dangerous underbelly of a life she had only seen in movies, where loyalties were tested, and trust was a luxury. Jun was facing down a threat that could turn deadly in an instant, and she was right in the thick of it. The juxtaposition of fear and excitement surged within her, making her acutely aware of how alive she felt in this moment. "I'm not here to hurt you," the figure finally said, but Jun dismissed the claim with a sharp shake of his head. "You're lying." "I know the game," he shot back, his voice firm and unwavering. Maya felt the heat of his determination, and for the first time, she recognized the fine line between danger and desire. It was intoxicating, and it made her want to know more about the man who stood before her, unyielding in his resolve. In that split second, June turned to her, his expression softening just a fraction. "Trust me," he murmured, as though the words held a power all their own. Maya's heart fluttered at his plea, and despite every instinct screaming at her to flee, she found herself wanting to believe him. There was something deeply compelling about his intensity, a darkness that drew her in and yet made her feel safe at the same time. In the chaos, a decision began to form within her. She would stand by him, no matter what came next. This was no longer just about survival, it was about understanding this complex man, this mob boss who had unexpectedly become her protector. "I'm with you," she stated, her voice steady and confident, surprising even herself. The uncertainty in June's eyes flickered away, replaced by a glimmer of appreciation. "Then stay close," he instructed, and together, they prepared to face the unknown. Maya felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins, igniting a fire within her that she never knew existed. If you're already fascinated by the unfolding drama of their bond, hit that like button. What would you do in Maya's position? Would you trust June? The stakes were high, but the pull between them was undeniable. She was no longer just an observer, she was a part of a story that was still being written, and she was determined to find out how it would unfold. With a shared glance, they braced themselves for the impending confrontation, united in their fight against whatever threat lurked in the shadows. Maya had crossed a threshold into a world of danger, intrigue, and unexpected romance, and she knew there was no turning back now. This was just the beginning. Maya's heart raced as she watched the figure in front of June shift, uncertainty etched across their face. This was not a game, this was her life. The intensity of the moment enveloped her, and she realized the stakes had escalated far beyond her comprehension. June's protectiveness was evident, and though he had always projected an image of strength, she could see the tension in his muscles, the way his jaw clenched as he prepared for whatever was to come. "I won't let anyone touch you," he whispered, more to reassure himself than her. It was a promise that resonated deeply within her, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. She took a steadying breath, and in that brief moment, she understood the gravity of her decision to remain by his side. There was an undeniable bond forming between them, born from this shared peril. The shadowy figure finally spoke, their voice low and cautious. "June, it doesn't have to end in violence. You know we can work this out." His tone hinted at desperation, but Maya could sense the hidden threat beneath his words. June's expression hardened further, his determination unwavering. The protective instinct radiating from him made her feel safe, even in the unsettling atmosphere. "Work it out? You betrayed my trust. You know what happens to traitors," June replied, his voice steady yet laced with an underlying menace. Each word hung in the air like a taut bowstring waiting to snap. Maya felt the tension enveloping the room, coiling tighter as the confrontation escalated. "Think about what you're risking, June. This isn't just about you anymore. You have her now." The figure motioned towards Maya, an unsettling smirk crossing his face. The implication of his words sent a chill down her spine, and she instinctively moved closer to June, finding solace in his presence. "You don't get to use her as a pawn in your twisted games," June countered, his voice rising slightly. The weight of his protectiveness filled the air, and Maya could feel the battle lines being drawn. Her heart raced, torn between fear and an electric thrill coursing through her veins. In that moment, she saw a different side of June, the fierce loyalty that burned within him, a fire that burned for her. It was intoxicating, and she felt herself drawn to him even more. The chaos outside faded for a while, and she wished to understand this man who stood before her, unyielding yet vulnerable. As things reached a boiling point, Maya made a choice that surprised even herself. "June, I trust you," she said, her voice firm. His intense gaze turned to her, eyebrows raised in surprise. She could see the flicker of appreciation in his eyes, and it emboldened her. "You need to know that I won't stand by and let someone threaten us." For a fleeting moment, June's expression softened, a glimmer of warmth breaking through the cool facade he always maintained. "You shouldn't be here, Maya. This world is dangerous." "Neither should you," she countered boldly, stepping closer, determined to stand alongside him. It was a revelation that shocked her as much as it thrilled her, a sense of unity against the impending threat. Just as tension peaked, the figure lunged forward, breaking the unyielding standoff. Time seemed to slow as June reacted with a speed that left Maya in awe. He stepped in front of her, and she watched as he moved with a fluid grace, a predator defending his territory. With one swift motion, he disarmed the assailant, pinning him against the wall. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She had never seen him like this, fierce, powerful, and utterly dominant. The energy shifted in the room, and she felt the intoxicating blend of fear and admiration wrap around her. As June held the figure firmly, the resolve in his eyes sent a shiver down her spine. "Now, you'll listen to me," June said, his voice low yet commanding. "If you ever come near her again, you will regret it." The underlying threat was palpable, and Maya couldn't help but feel a surge of adrenaline. This was the man she was starting to fall for, a force to be reckoned with, and it both terrified and excited her. Once the immediate threat was neutralized, June turned to Maya, his expression shifting from fierce protectiveness to something softer, more intimate. "I'm sorry you had to see this side of my world," he murmured, his voice low and sincere. But Maya shook her head. "This is who you are, June. And I want to understand it. I want to understand you." It was a bold admission, one that sent a thrill through her. She was stepping into unknown territory, but the connection between them was stronger than her fears. Just then, a realization washed over her. She had crossed a line into a world that was both thrilling and frightening. If June was willing to risk everything to protect her, maybe it was time for her to risk something in return. "Let's get out of here," she suggested, her voice steady. "We need to talk about what just happened." June regarded her with a mixture of surprise and admiration. "You're brave, Maya. But this isn't over yet." "No," she replied, "but we can face it together. If you're captivated by the tension between them, remember to hit that like button and let me know your thoughts." Would you have had the courage to stand by someone like June? Their story was unfolding, and Maya was determined to see where it would lead them. Together, they were stepping into uncharted territory, a journey that would challenge both their limits and their hearts, and she couldn't wait to embrace it. The aftermath of the confrontation hung heavy in the air, thick with a mixture of tension and urgency. Maya and June stood close to one another, the chaotic sounds from outside the safe room muffled yet still palpable. The adrenaline coursing through Maya's veins was slowly giving way to a more profound realization of what they had just faced, and how it had altered the dynamics of their relationship entirely. "Are you okay?" June asked, his voice softening as he assessed her for any signs of distress. His concern felt like a warm blanket wrapping around her, shielding her from the storm outside. She nodded, taking a deep breath, the scent of leather and cologne filling her nostrils and further igniting the swirl of feelings she had for him. "I'm fine," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Just a little shaken up, I guess." As she spoke, she couldn't help but notice the way June's gaze lingered on her, a mix of admiration and something deeper swirling in the depths of his dark eyes. He had faced danger head-on to protect her, and it stirred something fierce within her, a realization that she didn't just want to observe this world, she wanted to be a part of it with him. "You shouldn't have had to see that," he said, guilt seeping into his tone. "This life, my life, it's dangerous. I didn't want you to get caught up in it." A part of Maya understood his concern, but another part of her rebelled against being seen as fragile. She was strong, capable, and ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. "June, I know this isn't just a game for you," she began, stepping closer, feeling the charged energy between them intensify. "But I'm not some delicate flower that needs protecting all the time. I can handle myself." Her defiance was met with a spark of respect in his eyes, and she felt emboldened by the acknowledgement. He let out a breath, seemingly weighing his thoughts. "Trust is a dangerous thing in my world," he admitted, his tone serious. "But I sense something in you that I can't ignore." "I'm not going anywhere," Maya stated firmly, her resolve crystal clear. "If we're going to do this, whatever this is, we do it together. I want to understand your world, the good and the bad. I want you to let me in." June regarded her closely, and for a moment, the weight of the world outside disappeared. The vulnerability that had been hidden beneath his stoic exterior was now surfacing, and she could see the struggle within him. "You're braver than I expected," he finally said, a hint of admiration threading through his voice. "But bravery can be dangerous." "Maybe," she conceded, her heart racing as she spoke. "But is it any more dangerous than sitting by the sidelines?" The air around them crackled with an electric tension, and the distance between them shrank further. She was tired of being afraid, tired of watching from a distance. If she truly wanted to understand June, she needed to be all in. In that charged moment, they both drew in a breath, the unspoken understanding bridging the gap between them. Before they could explore this newfound connection, the sound of footsteps echoed outside the door, jolting them back to the present and reminding them of the threat still looming. Maya's heart skipped a beat. "What do we do?" she whispered, her voice barely containing the anxiety that bubbled up. June moved closer, the protective instinct flaring back to life. "Stay behind me," he instructed, his voice low and steady, commanding attention. "If it's safe, we leave out the back. If not," his words trailed off, the implication clear. He would do anything to shield her from danger. They both listened intently, every sound amplifying the tension in the room. He turned to her, and in that fleeting moment, their gazes locked, conveying unspoken promises and fears. "Whatever happens, remember we get through this together," he assured her, his voice firm, yet it was laced with an emotion that made her heart race. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and they both froze, anticipation hanging thick in the air. A figure appeared, silhouetted in the dim light. It took a moment for Maya to process, but when she did, relief washed over her. It was a trusted associate of June's, not the enemy they had been anticipating. "Boss, it's clear," the man stated, a sense of urgency in his tone. "We need to move quickly. They're not far behind." June nodded, the weight of leadership settling back onto his shoulders as he turned to Maya. "Are you ready?" he asked, his expression serious. The question held more than just a physical readiness. It was an inquiry about her emotional state, about whether she was prepared to step into this unpredictable world with him. With a deep breath, Maya squared her shoulders, her resolve strengthening. "Yes," she replied firmly. "Let's go." June stepped forward, taking her hand in his, and she felt an exhilarating rush at the simple gesture. There was power in that touch, power in their unity. As they moved to exit the safe room, she couldn't help but glance back over her shoulder, feeling like she was leaving behind a life she had known for something unfamiliar and thrilling. If you're feeling the tension of their journey, hit that like button. This is just the beginning, and there's so much more to uncover about what lies ahead for Maya and June. Together, they were stepping into a realm filled with uncertainty, yet it was a journey she was willing to embrace fully. As the chaos settled and the night turned quiet, Maya leaned against the wall of the safe room, reflecting on everything that had transpired. Just hours ago, her life was entirely ordinary, filled with monotonous routines and predictable outcomes. Now, she found herself entangled in a web of danger, allure, and unexpected emotions. "What a whirlwind," she whispered to herself, the gravity of the situation slowly starting to sink in. June stood nearby, his posture relaxed but the tension still evident in his body language. He had always exuded a quiet strength, but now, as the events unfolded, the layers of his complexities began to unravel before her eyes. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low, a hint of concern lacing his usually steely demeanor. Maya nodded, though her heart raced. "Just trying to process everything," she admitted. "It's not every day you find yourself hiding from dangerous people with a mafia boss." She attempted a light-hearted chuckle, but the weight of the truth loomed heavily in the air. June stepped closer, the space between them closing, and for a moment, they shared a silence that spoke volumes. The flickering light cast shadows on his handsome face, and in that dim light, she saw not just a powerful figure of the underworld but a man with fears and fragility. "I didn't want you to get involved in any of this," he confessed, his tone softer than she had ever heard it. "You should be safe, living your life." "Safe? Living my life?" Maya scoffed lightly, shaking her head. "What does that even mean anymore? I can't go back to the way things were. Not after this." Her voice trembled as she spoke, the realization hitting her like a wave. She craved adventure, passion, and something that made her feel alive, and here it was, albeit not in the way she expected. June studied her, a flicker of understanding passing between them. "You need to understand that my world is dangerous, and there are things, people, who won't hesitate to go after what they want," he warned, his deep gaze penetrating her defenses. "And what I want, it might not be what's best for you." "I appreciate your concern, June," she replied, meeting his gaze with resolve. "But I won't be a damsel in distress. I'm not afraid of your world. I want to be part of it." The words hung in the air, bold and defiant, igniting something within her that she hadn't known existed. In that moment, she saw him, the man behind the mafia facade, the complexities, the burdens he carried. June stepped even closer, their breaths mingling in the charged space between them. "You're different, Maya," he said, his voice low but filled with an unmistakable urgency. "You make me want to fight against everything I built. You challenge me." She felt her heart race at his admission, their mutual attraction undeniable. The chemistry that crackled between them evolved into something more profound, a connection forged in the fires of danger, trust, and an unspoken understanding of each other's vulnerabilities. "Then let's fight together," she replied, her voice steady, filled with determination. Before they could delve deeper into that conversation, the sharp sound of footsteps echoed outside the door once more, a stark reminder of the reality pressing in on them. June's expression shifted from vulnerability to focus, his instincts kicking in. "Stay close," he instructed, his voice urgent. "We need to be ready." Maya positioned herself beside him, feeling the heat radiate from his body. "I'm not going anywhere," she declared, her heart a mix of fear and exhilaration. They were plunged into the unknown together, and despite the dangers, she felt a fierce sense of empowerment coursing through her veins. The door creaked softly, and as it swung open, it revealed June's trusted associate, a young man named June with a frantic look on his face. "We have to move, now," he urged, glancing between Maya and June. "They're closing in." June nodded, his demeanor switching back to that of a leader. "We'll take the back exit," he said decisively, turning to Maya. "Are you ready?" The gravity of the moment hung heavily in the air as he searched her eyes for affirmation. "Yes, I'm ready," she responded, gripping his hand tightly. The very act felt empowering, drawing strength from their connection. Together, they stepped into the chaos of the unknown, leaving the safety of the room behind. As they navigated through the dimly lit corridors, Maya's heart raced, not just from fear but from excitement. Each step felt like a leap into a new life, one where she was no longer just a spectator. She was part of something bigger, something thrilling and dangerous, and the notion both frightened and exhilarated her. "Stick close to me," June instructed as they reached the outside, the crisp night air enveloping them. The darkness felt alive, and she could hear the distant sounds of the city, a place both foreign and familiar. "June," she began, her voice firm as they paused for a moment. "Whatever lies ahead, we face it together." There was no turning back now. She had chosen this path alongside him, and she intended to see it through. He turned to her, his expression softening as he squeezed her hand, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey. "I won't let anything happen to you, Maya," he vowed, a fierce determination in his voice. "You mean more to me than I can explain." As they moved forward into the night, Maya felt a surge of hope amid the uncertainty. She was no longer just Maya, the ordinary woman, she was a force to be reckoned with, standing by the side of a mafia boss who had become her source of strength. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, did you see that ending coming? At the end of this video, you'll find another intense romance waiting for you. Don't miss it.